Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Life Theories. We got me, Sarah, here with Diana, just a small group today, and we're going to be chatting about the big energies that have been rolling through because of the astrology happening. We had a big full moon in Aries just last week that created quite the shakeup and a lot of chaotic energy moving through. All the astrology around that's supporting this shakeup and illuminating all the areas in our lives that we can no longer hide from. And it's getting extra hard to pretend that the things that we've aligned ourselves to are actually in alignment with where we want to go. So we're going to be talking about that today and all the other things in between that come up from that conversation. So how do you feel about that, Diana? Like, what's your take on this? I know you do a lot of astrology stuff on your channel. So what's your take on that Aries energy and like what it's illuminating for us this full moon?
The Aries full moon, I am an Aries. That's in my sign. So I definitely had a little bit of a shakeup then. And wait, actually, I have a meme that I think described it pretty perfectly.
Is that the one with the ram head that you
Yeah,
shared? Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so it
Yeah, that one
says,
was pretty bang on. It had like lots of good points in it for sure.
yeah. So for the Aries full moon, it said, be more assertive, take charge of your own life, choose your battles wisely, don't get sucked into petty conflicts, own your inner power and have the courage to act on something you want, and
Yeah.
channel frustration and anger in a positive manner with the affirmation of, I am acknowledging the part of me that needs to evolve, allowing the rising warrior within me to take charge. So as being an Aries, sometimes we can be known to be a little chaotic, kind of like impulsive, jumping headfirst into things, very bold, a little bit abrasive sometimes, aggressive if we don't learn to pull it back a little bit. Ruled by Mars, right? Sometimes Aries get a rep for being like more angry. I like to say we're just more like passionate and a little hot-headed. We have to just channel our energy in a healthy way, basically. If not, it's like all this crazy like fire and Mars energy. It just needs to be tamed a little bit. You know, it's about balancing the masculine and feminine more. I think it's knowing the power of your words too,
Big one.
being more brash. And it's not always about what you say. Well, I guess what you say matters, but it's often how you say it, how you deliver it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's probably one of my biggest challenges in relationships or just in general. I guess probably more towards relationships. I think it's just communicating in a healthy way and setting boundaries in a healthy way. You could even set a boundary with someone, it's like it comes off the wrong way. Like it doesn't leave a good
Yeah.
feeling in their stomach. And I think that's something that I've had to work on this Aries full moon, just communicating in a healthy way. And also I like what they said about the petty drama, because I
Yeah.
can get caught up in some petty drama. I mean, okay, so if I'm seeking some kind of drama or chaos, I've had a life that was pretty much like that most of my life. As a kid, seeing that with my family, a lot of conflict and toxicity
Like social
in
circles and
relationships,
shit.
going through substance addiction and stuff. Sometimes I seek out chaos. Sometimes I'll create it on purpose, or like subconsciously, or I'm not saying I intentionally want to do it, but
Yeah.
just so
So
you
it's a
said that I'll,
subconscious thing.
yeah, but it's like I'll create that. So sometimes I'll go watch some like some garbage TV or like dramatic thing. Like I was watching like Too Hot to Handle or something. I watch stupid things like that. I mean, sometimes they're fun to watch, but just like let me just get this drama out. Like let me
Yeah.
just go feed on someone else's drama, or I mean, I can scroll on TikTok, go down some rabbit holes too if I want. But it's like I'm just trying to make it so I'm not creating it in my own life. But it's also finding balance within myself. Why do I feel the need for that sometimes? And I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of reasons. I listed some of them already, but it just, for me, just like finding the balance and harmony. And it's okay to find stimulation and drama sometimes, but I don't need to create it in my own life. Find it
Yeah.
in other ways or whatever. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but there's a
Like
need for me to like have that. And
finding a way to stimulate that need for chaos. Like
yeah,
that your subconscious mind is like so used to because that's what's familiar, right?
yeah,
So it's like when you have familiarity in chaos, when things are too calm, your nervous system starts to freak out and it's like we need some fucking chaos.
something. Yeah,
We need something. Like
yeah,
something, this feels uneasy for me because it's too calm. I'm not
yeah,
used to this. And your nervous system is aligned to that chaotic energy,
yeah,
not necessarily because you want it to be, it's just because that's what's familiar to you. So
yeah,
when you go to try to like heal from those things and try to switch up your life, you've really got to pay attention to your nervous system and like help it find safety in the calm, because otherwise it's going to come out in picking a fight with your spouse or picking a fight with your roommate or your friends, or like going and trying to find that chaos. And like I find a good way, like I'm the same way, right? I used to have a lot of like chaos in my social circles, like a lot of chaos like in my family, like in just in my life in general. It was like if there wasn't something chaotic going on or something that I needed to like react or respond to, like I got used to that. So the moment that I stopped living that way and like stopped engaging in those things, it was like I need that. So it's like I find like watching trash TV and like watching it on other things, like just an episode or two of something, just to like help me fuel that, but like doing
Yeah.
it in a safe, calm environment, it helps me to pendulate between the like, okay, I can like really engage with this chaos, but then I can like check myself and bring myself back and like really scan the room that I'm in every time there's like a commercial break or a pause in the thing, and just like remind myself that yeah, I'm actually safe. Like there's chaos going on out there, but I'm safe to be safe in my environment where that's not actually happening. So it's like that's why I like to engage in those things now, and like those kinds of TV shows, because it gives me the ability to pendulate between chaos and
Yeah.
safety in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not actually jumping into the chaos. I'm not throwing myself into it or trying to find it in my own environment. It's like I can watch somebody else's chaos, like you said, and like still be in my own calm. And
Yeah.
it's I can allow my nervous system to pendulate between the two and be like, oh, there's chaos there. But like actually though, I'm safe. I'm calm. I'm in a good space. And like just take a couple of breaths in and like look around and realize like that's not what's actually happening around me.
Yeah.
So it's like when we're dealing with these like healing from the chaos, so to speak, like that's a really good way to do it, is like allow yourself a little bit of time once a week or a couple times a week to like watch those shows and engage in that way, so that way you're not finding it in your own reality. Like
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, no, I hear you. Like, and that's the other thing I was going to mention about what you said about like assertiveness too, like, because what you were saying about the Aries thing, um, something like I noticed is like when we're being assertive with people that like, and I noticed this with Aries energy and people that I know that are like under Aries placement, like they have a tendency to be assertive, but a lot of times that gets mistaken as aggressive. And
Yes.
like, you know what I mean? Like you're just trying to set boundaries. You're just trying to be firm with what's right for you. But people are like, oh, why the fuck are you such a bitch? Like,
Yes.
why
I
are you
get all
being
the
like
time.
that? And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, like, why are you taking it like that? Right. So it's like there's that energy, that push and pull between like, all the energies that are coming up right now. You're just trying to set boundaries with people. You're trying to be assertive. You're trying to like be firm in what's right for you, and it gets taken the wrong way. And then you get labeled angry, aggressive, mean, rude, bitchy, like, so it's like, yeah, it's there's so many different things coming up right now where it's like all that shit is just coming to light. It's being seen. It's being illuminated and brought to the forefront, like whether it's like the parts of you that lean towards chaos, the parts of you that are like more aggressive as opposed to assertive, like that's all coming up right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to like pull all that together.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and we've talked about in our previous podcasts, like about staying neutral in a polarized world. This world is very polarized. So even
Yeah.
that Aries energy is a little bit well, it's definitely more on the masculine side. So just I think just everything, it's finding balance. And even if you are someone that's used to chaos and stuff, and even if you are watching some trash TV to like get your little dose of like drama. I mean, I'm noticing it's usually drama in relationships or like something. I was like, I'm connecting some dots here. Like I want to see some kind of like soap opera sometimes.
Yeah.
And but even that, I could go binge watch that the whole day and the next day and then be like, oh, I think I'm good. But sometimes it does what it's supposed to do, because I'm like, hey, I didn't really want that in my own life. I just wanted to like dip into that a little bit. But why? I guess I should ask myself why. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just in a process of healing, and that's still something that comes up for me. So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
do things in a healthy way. I think a lot of it is just like harm reduction, just kind of what helped me with like addiction is just anything I'm trying to stop or heal. It's like sometimes you do the lesser two evils, you do maybe just a little bit of something, and then, you know, I think we even talked before about things having like they're the medicine or they're poison, right? And I'm not talking about just drugs, like anything in general can have, you know, just a little bit of something can give you the medicine, the cure or whatever, have some kind of healing property, but then just you go a little bit over that limit, whatever it is, it's becomes a poison, you know, it's
Yeah.
toxic for you.
Or one of the things that you can do, like as someone that's like trying to heal from it, is just sort of like apply like what I was saying, right? Like let yourself pendulate into that, like let yourself feel that charge of like watching that show, like, ooh, what's that spicy feeling inside of me that gets a kick out of watching this kind of stuff? Like,
Yeah.
and really sit with that feeling, but then take a couple of breaths like every few minutes and bring yourself back to the safety of the room and feel how the safety of your own environment feels within your body, and sit with that charge, sit with what it feels like to be in a safe, calm environment, and see like, is that bringing up anything uncomfortable within you? Sit with that uncomfortable feeling while you're in safety. Like, what about safety makes me feel uncomfortable? That makes me want to go back to that charge. And like, that's a good way to do self-discovery, is like while you're watching these shows in a safe environment, is like do that somatic pendulation back and forth between feeling the charge of the show and then feeling what it's
Yeah.
like to come back to safety and seeing where that lays within your body, so that you can start to get used to what it's like to feel safe and start to like really identify the parts of yourself that don't feel comfortable in safety, that want to seek the charge out. And that's how
Yeah.
you can really start to discover like the areas that are out of alignment with safety and that are looking for that chaos. And then you can really start to heal those in like deep, profound ways by doing that pendulation back and forth between the charge of the show and what you're feeling when you come back and notice, like, okay, I'm in my room. These people aren't actually in front of me. I could literally turn the TV off and they're gone. And then when I'm sitting alone by myself, what does that feel like when I don't have the charge? What parts of me feel uncomfortable without the charge? How can I nurture those parts of myself? What do those parts need? And
Yeah.
then, you know, get curious. And that's a really good way to actually start that healing process, instead of like, you know, when you're feeling that charge, going and fucking picking a fight with your spouse or your roommate or your partner, you know, like that's usually what we do on a subconscious level. But like, if you can consciously be aware of like, these are the things that I do, I am a person that seeks chaos, how can I do that in a healthy way without harming the people that are actually in my environment? And using trash TV is a really good way to do it.
Yeah, it's stupid, but like, and then sometimes even that is so extreme that like, I'm like, oh, like I'm like not doing all that. Like I don't even want to be involved in like that kind of stuff. But sometimes it just, I guess the way I've done it, think just a little more in extremes. Like, okay, let me saturate my mind so much or my body, whatever, so much with something to the point where then I don't want to do it anymore. That actually helped me with substances too. Minus
That's
going to
another
illicit
way.
rehab. That was kind of my way. I made myself feel so shitty. I would do so much, and then it doesn't really feel good anymore, you know, or like
Yeah.
whatever, any kind of habit. It's not just drugs, like any kind of habit I'm trying to stop. Like sometimes that's the way I've done it. It's probably not the healthiest way to do it, but sometimes it will make me
Yeah.
like, it will repel me enough to not make me do something again. Even smoking cigarettes, you know, I was smoking cigarettes for a while and I eventually just didn't like it. I just at one point I was just smoking a lot. And I was like, "Whoa, this shit sucks." I'm like, why am I even doing this? Now it's become a poison to me, and now I just don't even want to do it. It's like I don't need to do this. Like
Yeah.
that's just an example,
Yeah.
but that's my way of
I'm,
doing things.
I'm the same way, right? Like I quit like last October. I quit smoking cigarettes and hash, and I was smoking like lots, lots and lots. And like I had an excuse. Like I was one of the first people in Canada to get like a medical marijuana card for rheumatoid arthritis. And I've been smoking ever since then. Like when I was like 17 or 18 years old, like religiously every day. Actually, I was smoking before that, like when I was 14 or 15 when I started. But like I had that excuse. I had that get out of jail free card. Like, oh, I can't smoke this because it's for my pain. And I like it was just like a built-in excuse for me. But then I started realizing like with all the healing work that I'm doing, all the nervous system like regulation that I'm doing, all the meditation, like everything that I'm doing, like with my diet, like my body's not actually in as much pain as it used to be. So I'm literally just holding on to what's familiar and making excuses for it. And when I stopped last October, my nervous system, like I think I lasted 2 months and I was doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden I had a friend come and visit and I was like, oh, we'll celebrate. We'll smoke a joint. Like, it'll be good to smoke a joint with you. And then after that, I started smoking way more than I had in previous because my nervous system just wasn't ready to handle that. Right. So I went way, way, way deep into it until I literally started like shaming myself, feeling guilty. And like, I was like, every time I'd go smoke, like a part of me would be making excuses of like, oh, I need this. Oh, this is okay. Like, I need this for my body and for my pain. At the same time, there was another part of me being like, you're wasting time. You're wasting money. This is stupid. This is bad for your health. You don't actually want this. Like, you're taking yourself away from like where you're supposed to be. And like, I would start to feel so much shame and guilt around it that eventually I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't like keep making excuses, but then also shaming myself over it. So I got to myself kind of like what you're saying, where you just like, you shut down because it's like you put yourself in a position of like, that's too much. And like, you start to see it as a poison and you just stop. And ever since then, I just stopped and I haven't looked back. I haven't thought about it. I haven't like, I'm just not doing it anymore. So
That's awesome, man. You have to find what works for you. It's just finding your own way. What works for someone else might not work for you. People do programs for things. People have certain healing modalities. And I think a lot of it just finding what works for you, your body, your mind, your soul, like what you resonate with, and I really like alternative methods of healing it and doing things, I think that's how we can do something different than what we were doing before, and sometimes we have to experiment with a lot of things before we find out what works for us, and that can change too. It might have worked for you last year, but doesn't work for you now or 2 years ago. And we're always changing. So you have to like kind of upgrade like your system. So if you're always changing, you're upgrading, like whether it's a healing modality or whatever you're doing, that kind of has to shift too,
Yeah. And there's been times too, like where I've shifted and gone to something new and then realized like, oh wait, there was something I was doing way back in the day that I just stopped doing. And it worked really, really well for me. But like because of either a nervous system reaction or like something happening that was like that created trauma, I just like a part of my brain just shut that off and like no more of that. And then I'm realizing like, oh wait, I've healed another layer. I feel safe to go back to that now. And I'm gonna like revisit these old things. And like it's cool for me anyway. Like when I do revisit them, like I'm revisiting it with a fresh mind. And like there's been a lot of practices where like I was looking at it from a place of like spiritual bypassing when I first started doing it. But now I can understand the practice at a whole new level because I have like somatic practices like behind my belt. I do have like nervous system, like regulation practices behind my belt. Like I can actually look at things from a new lens where it's like, now I actually understand what that practice is about without trying to bypass and without trying to like glaze over the situation. Because like when I first started, that's exactly what I was doing. I was like grabbing at all these things, being like, oh, I can just like change my reality by like reprogramming myself. And it's like that works to a point. But then like what happened with my smoking and like with some of my arthritis healing modalities that I was using, where I just stopped using them because my nervous system didn't feel safe anymore. Like now that I've learned to create that safety, I can go back to those practices and try again without just like pretending like everything's fine, everything's changed because I've changed my mindset. It's like changing your mindset only works when your nervous system and your body is like on board with what you're changing it to. If it's not, you're going to fall back into those old patterns and habits, sometimes even worse than where you were at before. And I'm living proof of that. Like I've done that with so many different things, the smoking, like arthritis healing, communication styles. Like I've pendulated back and forth, like between the spiritual bypassing version of changing and healing and like, the actual modality of like, this is how to practice this, like with all these tools behind you, like with the ability to heal the trauma that kept you where you were in the first place.
Yeah, it's like peeling back a layer of an onion, like the layers of an onion, like it just goes deeper and deeper. And I don't know I think I talked about this on a different podcast. With Luna, I think when I did a wellness podcast, and we're talking about integrating the changes. So you make all these changes, but what's going to make it sustainable? That's even me doing a new workout routine that I've been working. I've been really trying to get more to the fitness center. I'm still doing it. Like I did yoga today. I do my Pilates. I'm staying more consistent. I have certain days a week that I'm going to go when I have a little more time. And even that, it's just like, you got to give yourself time to integrate changes, whether it's stopping where it's putting addiction or like a habit or something. It's like, or just incorporating a new healing modality. It's like there's layers it goes through. That whatever you're doing, any change you're making it's holistic, right? Anything you do on the mental realm is going to affect you on the emotional, the physical, spiritual. All those things are connected. Any change you make in any of those areas, it's affecting the other. And sometimes we've done more work on one area than the other. Like for me, I've done a lot of mental and emotional work, but physical is like what I'm really trying to work on, because I just feel like that's the slowest for me. Like the trauma is still trying to get out of my body. Even I did my yoga again today, and it was still like I felt when I was stretching all these different ways, I was like, oh my gosh. Like I had all these like realizations. It's so interesting how that works. And I was like, yoga is just supposed to be more of a gentle thing, but I was like, I'm having like some like visions, like awakenings and stuff from doing yoga. It's interesting. Anyway, but you have to give yourself time to integrate the changes. Like, your body needs time to process that change. And even your subconscious is trying to keep you safe, right? When you talk about with safety, sometimes it's like, it's uncomfortable. It's out of your comfort zone. It's not what we usually do. It's like, oh, what's going on here? It's like in shock sometimes.
This is all familiar.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, we're used to doing this, and now we're doing this, and like everything has to get on board, and that's with repetition. But you also have to slow down. Sometimes we take it too fast. Sometimes we learn about all these healing modalities. Like when I was first jumping into healing and all this stuff, especially after going through addiction, I was in such a rush. I was like, oh, I need to get all this healing. I was like, man, I spent years of my life messing up and just like putting myself out of balance. Man, now I need to like catch up. And then I went into like Akashic Records. I was doing hypnosis. I was doing, I was learning Reiki, or I was getting Reiki done. I was doing a lot of different things. And it's like, well, that's a lot you're doing, and they're affecting you in all different levels. Like you need to let it integrate, let your system reset and like accept those changes, that this is a part of the new you. If you rush too hard, too fast into anything, you might have a good experience at first and like make a positive change at first, but if you want it to be sustainable, consistent, if you overwhelm your nervous system with all that, like all these changes, especially healing on deep levels and stuff on an energy level and stuff, it's like it's overwhelming. You gotta rest when you need to. Even today, like I was gonna record more videos and do stuff, and I did my yoga, and I was like, man, I stretch out some things, that's cool, but like I feel like I need to just chill. Like, okay, we're doing the podcast, but like, do I need to do all this stuff? Maybe I should take time for myself and relax when I'm stretching and doing all these things with my chakras and meridians and stuff. Like I could feel some like tension being released. And I was like, now let me like chill and okay, I'll do it again in like in a week or something, or 2 weeks. I don't need to keep trying to do this to push the energy out or to heal this. And like, and that's Aries nature too, is like very direct. Let's get everything done right now. And like, so I'm really learning step back. Okay, I did this. I think that's enough for today, Diana. Like it's like inner child. It's like, okay, we can just like maybe we could do something again tomorrow or something. For me, it's always like soothing myself, soothing my inner child all the time. Because it wants that like I don't know, maybe it was trying to get attention from my parents. I'm not sure, just like something. It was always like I was always seeking something, and I'm just learning to turn more within and to rest, balance my energy, as much as I can.
I'm like, it's totally okay. Like what you were saying, it kind of goes back to like the pendulation thing, like allowing yourself to like, okay, I've done 3 new things that are for my body that I feel really good about. But there's a part of me that's like starting to freak out a bit. Like, what can I do that is a familiar thing? Like, do 3 new things, but then allow yourself without shame or judgment to go back to like a thing. Like, okay, maybe you went to do yoga and like you meditated and you had like a big somatic release, and like you did these big 3 things that are like new for you to align you to that healing, but also like you want to find that safety. So it's like, okay, well, maybe I can go and like get myself a little cupcake or a little treat or something. And it's like some people will shame you or judge you or like, no, you're trying to be healthy. But it's like when you're doing these big moves for your health, sometimes and like for rebalancing your nervous system and like all these releases and stuff like that in order to heal from the trauma, sometimes it is good to allow yourself that pendulation backwards, or like that titration,
Yeah.
that step back of like, I did three things towards the good thing. What's one thing my nervous system is safe with? Having a treat. Okay, so allow yourself that treat, and don't get upset about it, and don't be like, oh, I'm doing something bad, and like try to shame yourself out of having that treat. Like sometimes your nervous system just needs that little bit of safety
Yeah,
to
because it's
allow
safe there.
yourself
Yeah,
to
yeah,
keep
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep shutting everything down, your nervous system is going to fucking freak out and not let you keep going. You're going to hit a wall, and you're going to end up like just shutting down and ending up in freeze mode. And you're not going to be able to get yourself to the gym. You're not going to be able to get yourself to yoga. You're not going to be able to allow yourself the time to do the meditation and the breath work, because you're stuck and frozen, because your nervous system feels really fucking unsafe with all the things you're doing. So every time you're taking these big moves for your healing, allow yourself to go back once in a while to like what's familiar, just so that you can stay on the path of like creating safety around the new shit you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find
I
that's
think,
really important. Like, and that's like something that I've been learning a lot, like in my like my somatic studies, is like allowing yourself to have that swing back, that like, you know, but like don't do it in a way where you're like shaming yourself over it or making it some bad awful.
yeah.
Like, this is a way to create safety in my newness so that we can continue to move forward. It's like, you're like what you said with your inner child, like allowing yourself, like, hey, inner child, that might feel a little bit unsafe with like where we're going. Like, I know this is unfamiliar territory. What can I do to create safety for you? You want to sit at home and watch a movie for the afternoon because we had such a big morning? Cool. Let's do that. Let's rest. Oh, you want to go and get a treat from the ice cream shop or from the cupcake shop? Like, let's go do that. Like, whatever will help to create that safety after you've done all these big new things will really help to propel you forward. But a lot of times people think like, oh, that's falling back. But when you're in the beginning process of healing and you're in that vulnerability of that rebirth process, you have to give yourself those little bits of comforts in the beginning, just to remind your nervous system that you are safe. And you're not just trying to shut it out. You're not just trying to change it and like push it aside. Like, you're giving it the things that it feels safe with so that you can continue to move forward without that part of you having a tantrum and like freaking the fuck out.
That is a really good point. Yeah. Oh, hey Jay. Looks like Jay got on.
There you go. Sorry, my internet's buggered up. Sorry about that, guys.
It's all good.
It's all good. We've been having some internet issues here too. I'm in a torrential downpour flood zone. Diana's up in the mountains with her internet, so it's kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, but
Oh
how's
no.
everyone going?
Well, we're talking about the Aries full moon, the energy that it's brought up. Right now, we just had a big talk about creating safety within our nervous system as we're going and like inviting new practices into our lives and like healing
Yeah,
ourselves and like finding safety. I pretty much finished my point already, but like we were just talking about, when you're taking steps to heal, allowing yourself to fall back into the comfortable things once in a while, just to create safety within your
Yeah.
nervous system, so that you can move forward easily without parts of you or your nervous system shutting down and going into freeze, because you're doing all these unfamiliar things that make your nervous system feel unseen and unsafe. So
right. It's related to I think I looked a bit about the full moon, about as a growing spiritual being, you always have to, I guess, face your every challenge or everything you do is a lesson, message, or gift. So I had that, one of the biggest ones, and it's a confrontation. Successfully, I had a big success in that, how I reacted, but man, I got drained as all buggery from it. Was a confrontation, well, not really a bad confrontation thing, but yeah, it's something that we had to, something that came up, and I was basically brought in the middle of it. But it's basically working out, I guess, trying to calm a situation down that could have absolutely blown up. In the old school, I would have. I would have lost my shit. But yeah, with all the work that all of us have been doing, I'm very proud of the way I came out of it. But it also opened up a lot of wounds for me as well to understand what it's all about in the world and how to keep your energy up when something does, you do get knocked out, I guess, spiritually or energetically knocked out. So yeah, it's interesting times. But we're alive and we're breathing. We're very happy about that.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds like you really were able to like find a newness in like a level of communication and like, do something outside of your normal comfort zone and like, do
Well, it
that.
wasn't a normal comfort zone. Yeah, it was. But I guess I always do that in the job I'm in anyway. But it's a case of when there's an emotion behind it, when there's actual emotions behind what's actually you have an emotional attachment to it. And that's something that can trip you over the edge. But it was hard, and it has drained me a bit. But look, we can move on. Try and get ourselves up and move on. So it's one of those things where you can actually go into bed and just stay in bed all day. I'll be honest with you. That's why I've done that before. That's how it happens. I mean, that's what happens when you go through something like that, and people can relate to that. But it's just a case of getting up and getting moving again and try and change the sorry about that, just the alarm. Try and change the matter of it. So yeah, there you go.
Well, what Jay's saying too is like it kind of brings us back a little bit to like what Diana you were saying about relationships, like finding that balance between boundaries and like asserting yourself in relationship to like the people around you. That's a big theme that's coming up as well right now, like with this full moon energy, is like finding the areas which it is appropriate to assert yourself in, and like looking at the relationships that you're in right now and seeing like what are the people in my life showing me with how they're treating me, and are these relationships in alignment with the life that I'm trying to create, and
That's
like
perfectly said.
is it
Perfectly
worth
said.
me asserting myself and like creating this boundary, or is it worth just walking away? And right now, like with these energies too, like integrity and honesty is like a really big thing. So if you can express yourself and communicate your needs, your boundaries with the utmost honesty and integrity, you can do it in an assertive way. And if people want to label you as aggressive or angry or bitchy for being assertive, then you know that those aren't the right people for you. And like it's time to like look at those relationships to be like, okay, like if I need to assert myself but I'm going to get labeled bitchy, like is this really an aligned relationship with me, or are the people around you that you're being assertive with and setting boundaries with respecting that and like honoring that without putting labels on you? And if they are, then you know that you can move in alignment with these people. And it's just like all of the way that people are reacting to us right now or responding to us is like illuminating whether they're right for our path or not. And it's like I'm noticing with what's going on in my life, like the ones that aren't in alignment, like they're very loudly not in alignment right now. It's like getting extra hard to ignore that or like fawn over it and make excuses for like it's okay for them to be this way. Like I'm having an extra hard time like letting the people that are out of alignment do misaligned things in my life. Whereas before I used to just be like, oh, that's okay. That's just maybe they're having a bad day. Like I'm really seeing the truth and the reality behind the situation of all my relationships and being like, that reaction was really way too loud for me to ignore. And it's not in alignment with what I say I want. So is it worth me removing myself from this relationship altogether? And like just allowing that be illuminated and like take the truth of the situation as it comes.
It's funny you're using that word illuminated. I literally just made a inspirational video about what's being illuminated for you right now. Yeah, I think right now with the frequency shift, consciousness shift, everything that's going on the planet, it's so obvious like what is not in alignment, whether it's people, it's habits in your life, it could be food you're eating, the way you're thinking, it could be past trauma you're still resolving, relationships, friendships, family members, like what's done in the dark is being brought to light, right? And it's like everything is so obvious. Like if you're not on your path yet, well, if you're not on your path, a bunch of shit's gonna be illuminated to show you that you are on your path. Things are gonna crash, you're gonna have obstacles, detours, like bad shit happened. That's what happened when I went through my addiction, right? When I talked about that before, I knew it was time to get on the right path because all the doors were closing. Everything kept getting worse and worse and worse until I finally admitted, like, hey, I need some help and like I need to go do something about that. I need to make a change. And then even when you're on the path, the people that are clearly not on the path that you're going on or want to be on, it's gonna be like, whoa, like it's in your face, like just the way they're acting, the way their lifestyle, right? And as empaths, it can be easy to want to like help these people, or we've known these people for a long time, or maybe you dated the person, or family members, especially. That's your damn family, it's your blood, right? So that's even harder. It's like, and then what do you do? Are you gonna cut them out of your life for good, or is it just like, hey man, you just need to distance myself, or maybe only I'm doing healthy activities with them or something? I even had a couple of friends, that I used to party with and stuff, and hey, now I do hiking with them. I do like healthier activities. They aren't in that lifestyle that I was in. Obviously, I wouldn't be hanging with someone that was into that, but hey, it's cool that we used to do that in the past, like party and stuff, and now we can do some healthy things together. Or I just kind of switch it, see, hey, can you like do the stuff that I'm doing? I don't need to drop to the level I was at before, or just an area that I don't want to go back to. I've already passed that test. I've already moved past that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Like seeing where the people are willing to meet you halfway,
Or halfway, yeah. And it's not like, oh, I'm better and these people are doing good things in their lives. Like I still have a lot of stuff I'm working on, but there are certain things that are deal breakers. There's certain things that, like, whether it's disrespecting you, whether it's, hey, they're maybe in the addiction lifestyle that I was in before, I don't want to be in. Like, I'm not gonna even be around anyone that's like that, or just someone engaging in a behavior, or just a way of thinking, or just a lifestyle that like I don't resonate with. That's when I have to take a step back and really think about it, and like, what am I going to do? Like, is this person good for me, my life? Does this person deserve to be in my life? Like, so we just go our own ways? And it can be really hard to cut people off, or like never talk to the beginner, or block people. I've had to do that, but it's not easy, man. Like I can latch on to people very, like, way longer than I need to. Not latch on, but like sometimes I should have cut the person off a long time ago, and like when I finally do, it means I've already I'm way past it. Like mentally, it's like I finally physically did it. It was just like all the signs were there.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot too in my life, like as I started like moving through my healing journey, right? Like just who can I keep around? And like it takes a while to really like, again, find safety in your nervous system about like making those changes too, right? And like sometimes you keep them there, but you just don't interact with them until one day finally you feel safe enough to actually like block or delete or whatever. So it's
I get it. I totally understand. It's the hardest thing for me is to understand this is the way it is, and how do you, especially if it's family or whatever it may be, you have to sort of work it out exactly how you're gonna manipulate it. And look, one of the triggers I get is, I don't know about you guys, but the worst trigger for me is someone gives you something and then fucking makes you feel guilty about it afterwards.
Yeah,
that's not a gift. And then you know what? And the thing is, how I found it too is that you understand what the hell did you do? Did you really do anything? You always look at your own behavior. Don't get me wrong, I always do, that's fine. But let's be honest. If you're thinking, like, there's worse people in the world and all this kind of stuff, and are they expressing themselves as to vent to you because you're easy to vent to? That's what pisses me off.
Well, it kind of goes a little bit along the lines of like what I said in a post that I made recently. It was like, I think I put it up yesterday. It was like allowing yourself to grieve the parts of you that held on for too long, and like let yourself feel sad about that. Like instead of just like judging yourself and being like, oh, you shouldn't have held on so long, you shouldn't have done that, like, and to feel shame around putting yourself in those situations. Like, let yourself grieve how long it took to realize that this wasn't good for you, and how long it took for you to actually do something about it. If you feel grief around that, or if you feel sad around that, you need to give yourself permission and space and time to actually move through the emotions of like letting that grief go, instead of sitting there shaming yourself for, like, I should have done better for myself. Like, let yourself feel fucking sad. Like, that's a really important part of the process. And like, be there for yourself. Like, it's like, a, like being there for a child that's like feeling sad about relationships changing and things like that. Like, let yourself feel the feelings and go through the motions of what that release requires, instead of shaming those parts of you that feel upset about it. Like,
Yep, I agree with you. It's just, but the thing is also, I guess it's a case of how much grieving do we do, and how much do we have to make a conscious choice to move on, because we've got shit to do, right? And this is where we were learning about choice as well. And what I mean is, let me finish on this one. I'll explain it. People holding it. We're going to stop going. We have to basically make a choice to go, right. We accept it, and we have to move on, not quickly, but move on as well. So the choice is not to sit in it too long, and that's that's what a lot of us used to do.
Yeah, it's like, don't let yourself dwell on it, but give yourself the time and space to move through the grief until
that's right. Yeah, that's
like,
it. Yeah,
so like, don't hold on to it and stay in that space forever. But like, let yourself move through the different processes of grief. If you feel angry about it one day, feel angry about it. If you feel sad one day, feel sad about it. If you start to then accept it, let yourself accept it. And like, go through the period or the phases of grief in a way that like is actually healthy, instead of like sitting and dwelling.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a skill to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I look at the way it is. I still feel drained from what happened yesterday, but I know it's part of the full moon. And it was a lesson for me, and basically to test me of, if I'm going to do this motivational coaching, or whatever I decide to call it, I can do now with the situation I did yesterday. A lot of answers came up, and I can basically I could take on anything if I could do what I did yesterday and not go back into old patterns. Yeah, so it was a big win, but still it's very draining.